Welcome to the show. I'm Veronica Newfer. Today we're in the midst of the holiday season. In the holiday season, most of us like to stick close to home. Well, this is my home. We have a mushroom farm, and a lot of people ask me about mushrooms this time of year, and especially throughout the holidays. Great recipes in your stuffing, in gravy, in the morning. The family gets up in the morning, you want to make a good omelet, throw mushrooms in the omelet. There's all kinds of things you can do with mushrooms. One of people's favorite mushrooms this time of year in the fall is chanterelle. So these are chanterelles if you haven't seen them. A lot of people, as I said, they love mushrooms, so that a lot of people have seen them and like them. So it has kind of it's yellow of course, and it kind of has this sweet smell, kind of a creamy smell to it. A lot of people like to go pick mushrooms, but they're concerned about the kind of mushrooms. Are they chanterelle or are they false chanterelle? It can be very dangerous to pick the wrong mushrooms, as most of you know. I'd go online and look at a picture, chanterelle versus false chanterelle, and there's usually a pretty good description. The false chanterelles, they tend to have a skinnier stem. And they look similar, but with a skinnier stem. And there's also ones that I used to actually pick when I first got started that actually looked like chanterelle that had a bigger stem. They were just a little bit lighter. I think those weren't particularly poisonous. There are, and surprisingly, a fair amount of edible mushrooms out there, but you do want to make sure that you pick the right ones. A lot of people want to know where they pick mushrooms at, where you can pick chanterelles. A lot of people ask me, and there's a lot of people out there that know. I run into people all the time. They say, I pick chanterelles. Well, I want to give you a tip on where they might go and where I go. Here in Yamhill County, there's a highway called Highway 47. If you're in the area, you probably know where that is. And then you have the coastal mountains in between towards the coast. So I have a habit. I go about 10 miles up towards the coast, up the mountain, and that's usually about the right elevation. I have a few places I go to, and that's where I find them. So that'll give you just a tip where you might want to go to get started. And if you keep looking, you'll definitely find some. Into December, it usually starts to freeze, and chanterelles are no longer available after a freeze. But then at least we have our winter mushrooms, and they're very good too. The three winter mushrooms that we get a lot of here in Oregon and this area are black trumpet, yellowfoot, and hedgehog. So my husband is going to be talking about that.
I am Bob with Whole Earth Harvest, and today we're going to be talking about winter mushrooms. We have mushrooms that grow in the wild that grow in the winter time here in Oregon. A lot of mushrooms grow in the spring and in the summer and in the fall. Most commonly in the fall are like the chanterelle mushrooms, and in the spring are morel mushrooms. But in the winter time, there are some mushrooms that grow in the wild that grow typically in southern Oregon area. And there are three of the winter mushrooms that are known as black trumpet, also hedgehog, and yellowfoot. We also have truffles, Oregon black and Oregon white truffles that grow in the winter time as well. They don't get ripe until it gets really cold. Kind of interesting. So I wanted to show you some of those mushrooms, talk about them a little bit. The black trumpet, this is a partial box of a black trumpet mushroom. You can see why they call it the black trumpet, because it is dark, almost black in color. And you can see why it's also known as a trumpet, because it has a trumpet shape to it. It does not have any sort of gill underneath it, and it grows on the southern Oregon, northern California border. And this mushroom is commonly used a lot with red meat, like steaks and dishes that would use a red meat type of thing. It is a mushroom that grows typically at around 40-degree temperatures. This year in Oregon, we've had extremely cold temperatures. Right now outside it's 33, and this is in the middle of the afternoon. So our nighttime temperatures right now are down to 18. That's not real cold if you're up in the upper Midwest, but for Oregon, which is a more moderate climate, that's pretty cold. So there's a little bit of battle going on right now to get the winter mushrooms. The buyers are all fighting to buy everything they can. So this is the black trumpet. This is a nice dry mushroom. It's not very wet. If it's too wet and slimy, then potentially there's some issues with that. And you will find pine needles in the black trumpet because it grows in the pine forest. You will also have to, if you're going to buy black trumpet mushrooms and you want to clean them, you'll have to split them open and get out any sort of pine needles. This one was clean, but oftentimes there's pine needles stuck inside the bottom. And so you want to get those out before you use those. Another mushroom we have in the wintertime in Oregon is called the hedgehog mushroom. It's a yellow mushroom. It's a pretty good mushroom to replace the chanterelle when the chanterelle season ends, which is over. And it's a yellow mushroom. It has a flat cap on it. It's a fairly firm mushroom. And the reason they call it the hedgehog mushroom, and I'll get some that has a little more pronounced look to it, is that the underneath side has these little spires sticking out of it all over the place like a hedgehog does. So that's where it gets its common name, as a hedgehog mushroom. This mushroom can get a lot of moisture. It grows up right near the snow line. As the snow retreats, the foragers work up the mountains and harvest the hedgehog mushrooms. It also is in the forested areas and can have a pine needle or two on it as well. You will occasionally find some that do have a little bit of the forest debris on the bottom. You can clean that off or trim that off. Mostly they're pretty clean mushroom. And this has got a good flavor, kind of almost a nutty kind of flavor like a chanterelle. You definitely want to clean them up good and use them in any dish you would a chanterelle. And then there is another mushroom that's actually a variety of a chanterelle. It's called the yellowfoot chanterelle. And the yellowfoot chanterelle, here's a box of those. And it gets its name because, as you can see from this specimen here, the very bottom is very yellow, hence the name yellowfoot. And it then becomes darker as you go, and it has the gills like a chanterelle. It is a variety of chanterelle, although a lot of people, a lot of the chefs don't particularly care for the yellowfoot as a great replacement. It tends to be a wetter mushroom, and the moisture, it holds a lot of water in the mushroom. That's common. So if you get yellowfoot and you're going, wow, there's a lot of water in the mushroom, that's the way they are. They just grow that way. They can get fairly large and be dark and not be yellowing on the bottom, and that's still a good edible mushroom. This one here, for example, is quite dark. Other ones can be quite yellow, particularly on the stem, and they're a pretty good replacement, a little lower cost mushroom than the hedgehogs are. So in conclusion, here on the winter mushrooms, again, we have all three varieties of the winter mushrooms here: the hedgehogs, the black trumpet, and the yellowfoot.
Okay, those are some winter mushrooms, and if you want to know how to cook them, of course, there's some great recipes online. But also, any recipe you might find that just calls for mushrooms, a lot of times you can just pick and choose what your favorite mushroom is, and you can usually play around with it. I like to put it in gravy and put it over steak, over chicken, throw it in your soup, in your eggs for an omelet. There's all kinds of ideas, so those are just kind of some tips. The next thing that people ask about that people really seem to enjoy, of course, are truffles, Oregon white truffles, Oregon black truffles, and there's other truffles. So you're going to watch a video now that will explain the difference and where they are and where they come from.
Hi, I'm Bob with Whole Earth Harvest, and I wanted to talk to you and share with you about Oregon truffles, Oregon black truffles, and Oregon white truffles. So today what we have here is a a few pounds of the Oregon white truffles. And when you look at an Oregon white truffle, you'll see that they're not all just white. There are some that are fairly white in color on the outside, and some that are fairly dark in color on the outside, almost a brown or orange brown. These are actually quite good. They're very ripe, and so don't be afraid of an Oregon white truffle that's brownish on the outside. Here's one of the larger ones that I have in this particular box, and they occasionally will have little holes where the little insects will eat on them. Voles and mice will dig up Oregon white truffles. It's one way to find them, and because they're, that's how you know they're good to eat, because the other wildlife are actually after them as well. And so how you tell a good Oregon white truffle from a bad is a combination of things. One thing would be that they're not too soft or spongy or wet type of thing. These are all nice and firm, and they do have some holes in them. Again, it's not a problem. If you don't mind that, everybody knows that Oregon white truffles are going to have occasionally a little insect hole in there, but that does not make them not ripe and not good. If you want to check for ripeness on an Oregon white truffle, what you're going to want to do is you can use a knife. I don't have one handy, so I'm going to just break a piece off. And you'll see that it's a marbled color. Inside, you want to see that darker marble coloring to it. If it's pure white, then it's not very ripe, usually. And then the other thing is just the smell. It'll have almost an ammonia kind of smell to it. And some people have more sensitivity to that than others. When you have the whole volume of them together, that's when you particularly notice that aroma that you're looking for in an Oregon white truffle. If an Oregon white truffle begins to go bad on you, it'll get wet and sweating. It'll be soft, and you might be able to use it if it's not too far gone. A good truffle stink, so to speak, is a nice strong flavor that you may or may not like. If you're a truffle lover, you'll love it. But you'll know if it's bad because it's got kind of a bad stink to it. We have a natural affinity for that type of thing. So Oregon white truffles can be large, medium, and small. We try to get anything as small size of a dime all the way up to a golf ball size. So here we have some Oregon black truffles, and on the Oregon black truffles, some of these are actually starting to go bad, and I wanted to show you that because it's something to look for. If you have a truffle that is beginning to sweat and develop this watering thing, especially on this side, they're starting to go bad, and the smell of those isn't just a strong truffle smell. It's actually kind of a stinky smell that is not very good, not very pleasant. A good sign of a truffle is the marbling inside. An Oregon black truffle should have that black and white marbling on the inside of it. And these here are typically a little larger than the Oregon white truffles. And what you can do if you have a truffle that you get, these ones here we're going to be washing them, drying them, and then freezing them for our frozen truffles, because they're right at that verge that they're starting to turn. You can freeze truffles. Some people, you like them frozen, and you can use them in butters and flavoring, things like that. But you can take the truffle and you can wash it with a vigorous spray, a hose and a spray nozzle, and you can wash that off. And sometimes they're gone too far and you can't save them, but a lot of times you can wash a bad spot off of them and then wipe that off and make sure you still have a nice firm truffle, and you can use that. There's little mushroom flies that like the black truffles, especially when they start to go bad, and a couple of those are flying around here as well. But the Oregon truffles and the white and the black are found more in the central area of, they're found all the way from the southern areas all the way up to the northern areas of Oregon. But the main area of finding Oregon black truffles are in the central coast range of the Oregon Coast Range. Okay, so we've talked about the Oregon truffles, the Oregon black truffles, and the Oregon white truffles. There is also a number of other variety of truffles that are available. Right now, the main truffle that's available other than the Oregon truffles is a winter black truffle that comes from Europe. That's available on our website as well at wholeearthharvest.com. There's some other truffles that are available. The more expensive and the highly sought after Alba white truffle that are an Italian white truffle. Though that season has just ended, they're a high dollar truffle. And then is also known as a French Perigord truffle. There's an Italian summer black truffle that later becomes the Italian Burgundy truffle. I'm trying to think of some other varieties. If I'm forgetting some, forgive me, but I think that's most of the variety of the truffles that are available. Those are all on our website at wholeearthharvest.com, and you can order them in various quantity sizes from 2 ounces all the way up to pound or two or more if you like. On there you'll find other wild mushrooms and other cultivated mushrooms as well. So again, if you want to look at what we have for our truffles, go to wholeearthharvest.com.
Okay, what you just saw are some seasonal mushrooms, fall and winter mushrooms. There are some mushrooms that people love that grow year-round. They are cultivated, and that's one of the things we grow. We grow shiitake, and we also grow maitake. So maitake is an excellent mushroom. A lot of people want to know what a maitake looks like, what it is, and what it's for, and I would definitely get some information. They're supposed to be extremely healthy for you. It's recommended from a lot of sources, doctors and stuff, if somebody has cancer. And there's just so many health benefits that I heard that are out there. So I'd encourage you to look that up online. But anyway, this is a maitake. And they grow on mushroom blocks. That's how they're cultivated. And they take a week or two to mature, and then they're ready to pick. So as you see, they kind of have like a leafy. They're very, very graceful when you pick them. And if you know of any foods with maitake in them, you know that they're very good and very delicious. They have a real strong flavor to eat them raw, but boy, when you cook them, they cook up really great.
Hi, this is Bob with Whole Earth Harvest, and here we are in our newest building we put in. This is our maitake growing room, and also known as a fruiting room. And the maitake is incubated in these other rooms, and they come over here. And over here, we cut the bag off, and they start to form these little brown lumps or bumps, if you will, on the edges. And after a while, those bumps become a little more pronounced, like these are on this edge. Sometimes they'll form those right in the middle of this block, and then as time goes on, it then becomes more developed like this here, and you can see the fronds is what these are called. Kind of look like a leaf, but they're fronds, beginning to develop more and more. And so these are different stages of development until finally they have these nice big fronds growing off of the block. And we harvest these after they're developed to this stage, and we cut these off with a knife near the base. And the whole fruiting body is edible. You know, it's not just the fronds; it's the whole base of the maitake. Maitake is also known as hen of the woods. Not sure where it get that name from. Maybe it's like hen feathers or something like that. It kind of looked like. I'm not really sure, but it's It does grow wild in the northeastern United States and Canada. It grows a lot in the deciduous forest. There's a lot of duff from all the leaves over the years in the forest, and makes for good bedding for the mycelium to grow. And it comes up and pops its head up and then grows out. And they can be huge in the wild. I've heard tell of hen of the woods in the wild growing to be as big as 50, 60 pounds. I've never seen that, but I've heard of that. So who knows? These blocks here will produce approximately 3/4 of a pound to 1 pound. This one mushroom here, when it gets done fronting out, could be potentially 1 pound of mushrooms on every block. They're a very finicky mushroom. They do not like changes. They don't like wind. They don't like high temperatures or low temperatures. They really like it in the mid 60s to upper 60s in temperature range. They like it very humid. We have our humidifiers in our air handler system here that keeps the room real moist. High humidity as you can get it, close to 80, 90, 95% humidity is what they like. And it's a very, very, very tasty mushroom. I love this. This is my favorite mushroom to eat. I will take this mushroom and sometimes I'll add shiitake to it and cook both of them together and saute them up. Add some onion. I like adding onions to them, and pepper and garlic. Pepper and garlic's my favorite in almost all mushrooms. And you can add whatever flavorings you want to cook those up. And then you can add, if you want to, you can add that into a soup or make a cream of mushroom soup. It's a really wonderful thing. You can make an awesome cream of mushroom soup out of these. And these mushrooms have been touted to have very high medicinal properties to them. Strengthen and boost the immune system. I'm not saying that from a medical point of view that it cures any diseases, but there are people who use it for health reasons. I'm not a doctor, so I can't say too much about that, but I can tell you that if you look up online the health benefits of Maitake mushrooms, also known as hen of the woods.
If you want to know more about mushrooms, more than what we've shared, at our 11th Hour Productions and gift shop, we have a lot of information on mushrooms. We even have mushroom teas, and we even have mushroom samples, free mushroom samples of shiitake that you can come out and try, and look at some of the recipes and the recipe books if you want to know how to cook them. We also have brochures on edible mushrooms versus poisonous mushrooms, things you don't want to eat. So a lot of information on mushrooms. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you at 11th Hour Productions and Gift Shop. Have a good week. Bye-bye. Inspiration.
Arts and crafts.
Health and wellness.
Communication and information.
We're here to encourage and inspire you.
You have a gift? We know you do.
And so do we.
Whether you come in to look by or want to promote your gift, we invite you to come in because when we're working together, we can accomplish great things.